All right. We are live with Attorney Stephen Stamboulieh, I think is how you pronounce it. Stephen, good morning, sir. How are you? It's good to have you, and I appreciate
Good morning. I'm doing well.
Let me ask you a
sir.
question.
It's my pleasure.
This is just you and I, nobody else talking. Have you ever been on the air with me before?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. We just had an argument here, and I'm in not an argument, a dissertation, and I feel I would have remembered you had you been on before. So thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it very much. A little bit about you. How long you've been in the state? For about 30 years, and did you get caught by a woman? Is that what the problem was?
Yeah, kind of something like that.
Yeah. See, that's worked. Perez
always works out that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's our greatest marketing tool that we have here is good Southern women from Mississippi capturing good talent from out of state. Let's talk about this. Your practice is in Madison, and one of the focuses that you have is the Second Amendment and firearms laws. I'm worried about this. Should we be worried about what's going on in Washington, D.C.?
Well, yes. And, you don't have to look that far. Biden told us exactly what his plan was. And that's to, without taking 4 hours to talk about it, it's to eliminate the Second Amendment. Do
you know some of the things that they've been talking about? Which ones are you centering in on and saying, all right, these are the things that I think they're going to do or have the greatest possibility of doing?
Well, there's two right now that have already passed the House. It's H.R. 8 and H.R. 1446. One is the Universal Background Check bill. And we can talk about that because you look at that and you're like, well, how can anyone be against universal background checks? And then 1446 is where they're taking the 3-day default proceed if you get not denied for a firearms purchase under NICS. And they're turning it into 10 days plus a number of steps that you have to take in order to clear your name, which, again, you might say, well, how is that objectionable if we're keeping guns out of the hands of the criminals? Mm-hmm. And then there's that Senator Feinstein just introduced, where it's an assault weapons ban that is so incredibly broadly written, it will ban all kinds of firearms that take detachable magazines.
Do you think our safeguard on this one is there's no way that the Supreme Court will allow this, or it's a little bit sketchy there too?
I think personally it's a little bit sketchy there too, because, the last case that the Supreme Court took and rendered a decision on, a real Second Amendment case, was in 2010 in McDonald v. City of Chicago. The last case that they rendered a decision in that was tangentially related to the Second Amendment was in 2016 about stun guns. Mm-hmm. And since then, they've done nothing. So I wouldn't throw all my eggs in the Supreme Court basket if that's what you're asking.
The two things, Stephen, that worry me more than anything is the assault weapons. But I guess the other thing, the back door to the assault weapons, absolutely, because there's no definitive definition. There's no definition on exactly what a assault weapon is, and it seems like on the Second Amendment, and we say this all the time when talking about to the good people from the NRA, it's one of those things where we worry about them and we hold our front lines on this one simply because on the Second Amendment, it's one of those things that liberals, if you give them an inch, they will take a mile. You always hear that, but this is the area. So if they have the wherewithal to define what assault weapon is, it's gone.
It's gone. And that's a feature. That is not a bug. Okay. They want it to be so malleable and so flexible that today it might be just a gun that takes a detachable magazine. Tomorrow it might be your 10-22 with the cylinder magazine in it that can hold, like 20 rounds of 22. Well, that's a lot. And so then they just kind of continually change what the definitions mean, just like they did with bump stocks. Just like Trump and the ATF did with bump stocks. They took a statute that was written in 1934 and 1968 and changed it to make it mean bump stocks. And that's what they do with the language.
The other one is the immunity, and that one scares me because I don't think there's anything that can transform the landscape faster through lawsuits, and every lawyer in America trying to feed like vultures on the Smith & Wessons and the ammo people. but that one would have dramatic effect. And I mean, it's probably as soon as it hits court.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen because that's the one way. You might not be able to ban the Second Amendment because the Supreme Court, I would hope at that point, comes in and says you can't do that because we still do have a Constitution, maybe. But if they gut the PLCAA, then the courts will just have a field day with it. The lawyers will come and have a field day with it, and then you don't have to ban guns. The courts do it for you.
Stephen Stamboulieh is with the, and Steve, paint a little bit of a picture how what would happen. What would we see in the headlines if, let's just say, the jury ruled for the plaintiffs on this one and they won the case and there is no immunity anymore for gun protection? How fast would it happen and what would it look like?
Well, I mean, it's these people are all the lawyers that are looking at these cases have brought cases like this already. Like the Charleston shootings. They've already gone after the manufacturers, and PLCAA has saved most of them. There's a case up in Washington right now where the court has said, well, you're not covered by the PLCAA because you're marketing these firearms to I don't even remember what they said, but it was one of these weird theories that the judge pulled a thread on and kind of pulled and pulled and pulled until he could get the result he wanted, which was to let the case continue instead of granting the manufacturer immunity. But, if it goes away, you get a $100 million ruling, the company goes bankrupt. Yeah. I mean, it's just plain and simple, just bankruptcy.
I mean, why couldn't you do the same thing as far as the automobile dealers, manufacturers? And you could take that to to the asinine level of saying people who make chocolate are causing diabetes and obesity. Why couldn't you do that?
Because they're not guns.
That's a very good answer. Give me a little bit of an idea of some of the firearm laws and some of the cases that you've litigated.
So I've done almost a clean sweep of the United States on taser laws. There was a bunch of states that even like New York and New Jersey, Hawaii, not California, that have banned tasers. So they didn't want you to carry a gun, and they also didn't want you to have anything to protect yourself with. And I've got two cases, Rhode Island and Hawaii, that's left for that. I litigated two machine gun cases back in 2015 to get them, protected by the Second Amendment. We have a case from 1939. It's U.S. v. Miller that basically holds that the Second Amendment protects weapons that preserve the efficiency of a militia. That would be a machine gun. And I've done just a whole slew of other NICS cases that were wrongfully denied by the FBI up in D.C. I mean, I've handled basically, I don't want to say everything, but a lot.
Yeah. Is H.R. 8, is that the one that says if you can still give or sell, you can give your gun to a family member, but you cannot sell it to a neighbor without a background check?
Correct. That's right. That's universal background checks. I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, what's the next step? The next step is you can give it away. Can you give it away, or would that probably be brought in there too from a family member to a family member?
Well, from a family member to a family member is okay as long as it's delineated out in the text. But if I was to you and to give it to you, I couldn't do that because we're, not a family member.
Have you heard in any of the cases that you've litigated or any of the story that you've read? Have you seen where any of these mass murders or these noteworthy killings that's made national headlines have been from a person who's acquired that illegally through a gun show? I haven't seen any of that.
Illegally through a gun show.
Yeah.
I've seen some, and I'm trying to recall the guy's name from, I think it was Charleston, where he should have been denied for a marijuana arrest, but wasn't. And so he was able to purchase it through an FFL, but he was still prohibited.
And he got it at a gun show?
He got it in an FF, like a regular firearms licensee. Yeah.
Are there some things to crack on? Some of the bills here you're talking about, HR 8 or 1446, they do address gun shows also?
Yeah, it's just a transfers.
Yeah.
It's
What's your advice for the advocates out there of the Second Amendment? If you can hang on for a second, I'd love to ask you that. And Stephen is still with us, speaking about the NRA and the laws that are going, or the bills that are moving their way through Congress. What's the status of that now? Where are we in Congress with this?
Well, I mean, so far that I know of, and I checked yesterday, H.R. 8 and H.R. 1446 have been passed off to the Senate. Feinstein introduced her assault weapons ban bill, I think, on the 11th, and so it's still working its way through to the Senate.
Still
but
working.
I mean, I can't imagine they don't pass it. I have no faith in these people, so I just don't think that they won't pass it.
You think it will pass?
I don't know why it wouldn't pass.
You're talking about in the Senate.
Sure, why not? You think that we're all going to automatically come down on Republican versus Democrat like we should have been doing, while we had control over all the House and Senate?
I don't think it'll pass in the Senate. I think I think you'll have enough people, certainly now, the way the atmosphere is and the environment is, with everything going on out west. Some of those states are going to pull back, and I just don't think you'll have enough. But I'm hoping I'm right and you're wrong, and I know I'm hoping.
I hope you're right,
and you're hoping I'm right. So we'll see what happens.
I'm hoping
on
you're
that
right.
one.
Yeah.
All right. Finally, how do we get involved? I mean, what's the solution here? What can we do?
I would, I think contacting your reps is always a good idea. We're fortunate in Mississippi to have, mainly good reps. We have one that's not so good, but, he's not going to vote for our side anyway. And then the corollary to that is to, if you want AR-15s, buy as many as you can now. In 1986, when they passed the machine gun ban to prohibit any transfers of new machine guns post-1986, a machine gun that was $400 then is $25,000-$30,000 now.
Yeah.
So they're gonna pass this bill. So buy what you want now. Buy 20 of them if you want, and then save them. And then in 20 years, you're going to be sitting on a gold mine.
Well, I don't know about that, because if they catch you, you're probably going to be executed by then. Not just kept in prison for a life. You'll probably be
That's true.
A firing squad, and they won't be blamed
domestic terrorist. Yeah,
but we have changed so much and technology plays into this. The bad guys and the people who are technologically advanced. You can build a weapon easily now from a 3D printer. There's so many black market weapons you can get out there. It is truly, absolutely true that the last people who are going to be left that won't have guns are going to be the bad people, period. Only the good people are going to give up their guns. Would you agree, sir?
Yeah, I was hoping you weren't going to ask a comment for me, because at that point, are you good if you decide you're not going to give up your gun? Because we're going to have some choices to make.
Well, I'm going to say this: law-abiding citizens, most of the law-abiding citizens are going to do that, and there are going to be some who are law-abiding citizens will not be law-abiding citizens any longer by holding on to their guns, and I think that's going to be quite a large number. Look, man, it's always good to have you. I thank you. This is a good first visit. We appreciate it. Look forward to getting you in studio.
Yes, sir.